Hello and welcome to Simple Tech. My name is Adam Michelson and I'll be your host for this show. Last week we went over the basics of computers, the copy, paste, find, and other functions built into most applications. Today we're going to teach you how to explore your computer, explore the things that are on it, and how to do things with the things that are on it. First of all, on the desktop, there's this icon up here called My Computer. If you double click it, this window comes up. In this window you see these drive icons. They represent each drive in your computer. This is for your floppy drive, your hard drive, which is your internal drive, your CD-ROM drive, and if you're on a network drive. These three things over here don't matter to us yet. We'll cover that in later shows. If you double click on a drive icon, the drive opens up. Everything you see in here is different files. Files is what makes up the computer. Files is what runs programs. Files is how you save things. Now, there are many, many different kinds of files. You see these files that look like they have a gear on them. Those are MS-DOS based programs. That means you have to go to DOS, or it will bring you to DOS to run these programs. These files with the flying window on it mean that Windows 95 isn't quite sure about how to use those files. So they'll just sit on your drive and they'll be used by certain programs which know how to use them. This file here as blank, that means this is something that the computer runs, but Windows 95 isn't exactly sure on how to run it. Up here you see these what look like folders. They're called folders. You can open folders up, and in folders you can store more files. Folders are an easier way of organizing files on your hard drive. See, if we open one of these folders up, more of these files come up. And there are many, many different kinds of icons for each folder. We open up the Windows 95 folder, where Windows 95 keeps all its important files. We see these different kinds of icons. This icon means there's a program that runs that has something to do with accessibility. This icon means when you double click this, it'll bring it to Paint, and it's a Paint file. This file is another one of those files that is not sure what to do with. This file means it'll execute a program which has something to do with a calculator. This has something to do with putting pieces back together. This has something to do with making space on your drive. So as you see, there's many, many different kinds of icons throughout the folders. Each file usually has its own unique icon. If you experiment with this, you'll soon understand what each of those icons mean and what each of those programs do. Now back to My Computer. This is your drive. When you right-click your drive, multiple options come up. One is to open it. We've already done that, so we won't do it again. The next is to explore it. To explore it simply means to do the same thing as opening it, but to use Explorer to look through it. And then there's all these that we can figure out later. But down here is one of the most important. This is Properties. You click Properties and a menu will come up for you. This right here is the statistics of your hard drive. Used space and free space. Now as you see on this hard drive, more than half of the drive is free. So however much is free, that's how much we can put of files and other things on there. We'll explain that more in detail later. Here's tools that help you keep your hard drive running. This scan disk runs to check for any errors on your disk and to fix them if it does find any. This here is a backup utility. If you have important files or something on your hard drive, it is suggested that you back them up either to disk or to tape. This here was that icon we saw in the Windows folder of putting something back together. This is called defrag. This is another program that helps you keep your hard drive intact. It puts all the data bits back together with the original programs. Because when you delete programs a lot, the data bits have a tendency of getting separated. Over here, this is the sharing tab. If you're on a network, you can allow other computers to access files on your hard drive by sharing it and giving it a name. But we don't need to do that right now because we're not on a network and most home PCs are not. If you double click any one of these drives, each one will open up. Now let's go back into the C drive. Now this is a pretty good way of looking at it, but suppose we don't like those large icons. There's an option in the toolbar that allows us to view it in smaller icons and in more detail. But we need the toolbar up here. So we'll go View, Toolbar. The toolbar pops up. Now, on the toolbar, there's these icons over here which allow you to view the files in different ways. This is for large icon. This is for small icon. This is for a list. And this is in detail. In detail gives you the name of the file, the size of the file, the type of the file, and the last time it was modified. Now, last show I told you that there are many ways to do anything in Windows 95. There's another way that you can view different icons. I just showed you the way to do it by clicking on the icons. Now I'll show you a different way. On the screen, you right click and go Arrange Icons. You can arrange them by name, you can arrange them by type, or you can arrange them by size, or you can arrange them by the last date they are modified. That's one way to arrange the icons. Here's the second way. Suppose I want to arrange them by type. I go up to this little menu right here and I click File, Type. And that changes it to arrange it by type. Suppose I want to change it by size. I click on Size. And arrange the icons by size. Same thing with name and same thing with modified. Now, say I arrange it by name, but I don't want those directories first, and I don't want it in ascending order. I want it in descending order. So, just click the file again, and it'll change it to descending order. From Z to A, and then your directories from Z to A. But most of the time, it's convenient to keep in ascending order. Now, that was my computer. And you can experiment more with that on your own. But now I'm going to show you a program that is basically the same thing as my computer, but just a little more advanced. On the desktop, go Start, Programs, Windows Explorer. This is the Windows Explorer. This allows you to do the same thing as my computer on this side, while over here being able to view what you're looking at, what folder you're looking at, what hard drive you're looking at, what drive you're looking at, what computer you're looking at, whether you're on the network or not. You can skip around your directories on this left-hand side and view what's in all these different directories. without having to go back to my computer. And over here, you see all these same icons that we saw in my computer. Now, you see these plus signs next to each one of these folders? If you click one, it'll open the folder up, and it'll allow you to see all the folders inside that folder. And see, this one has a plus next to it too. So we'll open it up. And see, there's nothing there, so that's the last folder in that chain. If it has a minus button next to it, that means that the folders inside of it are being shown. Like this has a minus because this folder inside of it is being shown. We click the minus, and it makes it smaller again. This Windows 95 directory has a minus next to it because all these folders inside of it are being shown. We simply click the minus, and it shrinks it down back to the normal Windows 95 directory. Now in Explorer, it's mostly the same thing as my computer. In my computer, we used icons to view different files. We used it to view it with large icons, with small icons, or by details. You can do the same thing in Explorer, and I'll show you. Here, across the toolbar, which looks a lot like my computer, you can view by details, you can view by list, by small icon, or by large icon. And in details, you get all the same things that you got in my computer. And you can arrange it by name, descending order name, ascending order name, size, type, or date modified. Now, here on C, this is the hard drive. It's the same hard drive that we used in my computer. If we right-click it, we have all these options, kind of like the ones we have in my computer. If we bring the mouse down and click on Properties, we get the same options that we did if we did it in my computer, with the disk space size, how much is being used, how much is free, different tools that you can run to make your drive last longer, and the sharing ability. Now, in Windows Explorer, suppose that the computer has gotten very cluttered. After you install many programs and you've saved many files, your computers can get very, very cluttered with files. So the best way to organize your files is by making folders and sorting your files out by folders. And I'll show you how to do that right now. In Windows Explorer, on this right side of the window, you right-click, and one of the options is New, and then this pops up. These bottom options here will vary depending on the computer, but these two should always be the same: a new shortcut or a new folder. In this case, we want a new folder. It allows us to type in a name for the folder. When you're done typing in the name of the folder, you click somewhere on this side. All of a sudden you see over here that the folder pops up over here. Now, if you want to open it, we just double click it on the right hand side and it's open. Now since there's nothing there, we won't see anything here. Now there's another way to make a folder. You go File, New, Folder, and it does the same exact thing as when you right click and do New Folder, and then we just name it whatever we want to. Now suppose we have these folders all nice and set up. but we want to put files in it so it's easier to understand where things are. Back in Explorer, we go to wherever the files are right now. We have to find them first. Say they're in here, okay? Say that this is the file we want to move. We right-click on the file, and these options come up. Now, these two options will look familiar from the last show. Cut and copy. Now, if we copy the file, it will go to a temporary place and will allow us to paste it anywhere we want to. Suppose we want to paste it back to this second folder. We simply right-click in the folder, and we have these new options. Paste. So we paste it, and now this file is in our second folder and will always be there. But suppose that we don't want, the only problem with copy is that when you do copy, it leaves another copy of it here. Now, if we want to organize our computer, it's not going to do us any good to make multiple copies of the same thing and have it just even more cluttered. So, what we do, if we want to move this from second folder to first folder, we can right-click it and do cut. And now you see it kind of has this transparent look to it. That means it's been cut. You move up to first folder, and we say paste. And now this file is in first folder. But now we go back to second folder, and it's not there anymore. It's moved it out of the second folder and into the first folder. Now, in the first folder, suppose we want to move it back to the second folder, but we don't want to right-click. There's another way you can move things. You click on it, and then you just drag it until it's on top of it. You can drag it to here or to here. And when you let go, it will have been moved back to there. Now, in my computer, there's another feature, which is also in Explorer that I'll show you now. When you right-click on the C, you get a menu that comes up, and one of the options is Properties. If you do that for first folder, you get the same menu, close to the same menu at least, and one of the options is Properties. In Properties, it looks totally different though, except that there's a sharing tab here, which looks exactly the same. But back at this tab, we see this, which is a description. This is the file name of the folder, what I decided to call it. This is the type of file it is. It's a file folder. Where it is, it's on the C, it's at the C, which is C:. And backslash means it's at the root. This is the size of it. And then down here, we see these different types of checkboxes. You can make it many different kinds of files. Files have basically three options. They can either be hidden, which means users won't be allowed to see them, and only the system will be allowed to get to them. Or a system, which means that the user cannot delete them, and that only the system will be able to use it. Or attribute, which just basically is a way of packing it. Well, there's not much we can do in here to a folder to affect it in any way. So we'll hit OK and just leave it alone. Next, we'd like to make a new document that we can edit. So in My Computer or Explorer, we right-click, we do New, and this pops up again. But instead of choosing Folder this time, we're going to choose Text Document. This pops up, allows us to pick a name for it. We'll call it first text. Now, when we double click this icon, it allows us to write something into it. Now, after we write something into it, we save it. Now, notice this modified time. We close this, refresh it, and the modified time has changed. That means that it's been modified at that date. That was the last time it was modified. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be right back after these messages.
911, you're being recorded. What's your emergency?
To save a life,
You have to help me, it's my son.
stop a crime,
Swing your fist at me!
or report a fire,
I'm at my grandma's. It's real smoky.
anywhere in Massachusetts, you can dial 911. And for most phones, even if you are unsure of your location or unable to speak, emergency personnel will respond. As the Secretary of Public Safety, with a family of my own, that is reassuring.
Hello, and welcome back. To wrap up the show, we'll show you how you can change the appearance of your computer. Last week we showed you how to change the background in case you're getting bored of seeing the same background over and over. On the computer, at the desktop, you right-click the desktop and go to Properties, just like you do to change your background. Now, if you move over to this tab, this will allow you to change your screensaver. This is what's going to come up every time you have a time go by, and this will come up to save your monitor. If a monitor has the same thing printed on it over and over and over for a long period of time, the monitor will begin to burn that right into the tube. So this saves your monitor from having any information burned into the tube. Right here is how you apply what time you want to be, what is the delay time you want before this pops up. You can test to see how your screensaver looks by hitting apply right here. If you want to test to see how it's going to look on the screen, you go preview. And this is how it's going to look after that preset amount of time has gone by to save your monitor from being burnt into. Also, this tab here, Appearance, is the way that your computer looks. This is basically straightforward, and you can set the colors, the font size, the size of these bars, the size of these icons, the size of the buttons, everything, all by scrolling through here and changing whatever. And you can see that actually change there. We can change the color to a different color if we felt like it. Now suppose that we've done it, but we've just played around with it and really don't like what we've done. So we just come back to here, click on it, and scroll down to these different ones, and we see different possibilities. But most of the time, we can see these are already preset. We scroll through until we find default. We hit default and we hit OK. I can't seem to find default on this, so we'll just skip that and hit cancel, and it will not be applied. Well, thank you for watching another week of Simple Tech. Next week, we'll show you more on how to learn about your computer.